Carnival has recently made a change to their smoking policies. And it's really just in the enforcement side of things. They haven't changed the policy as to what you can smoke and where and all when. That stuff has remained the same. The penalties have escalated. So now, if you're caught smoking somewhere that you're not supposed to, the penalties can be up to $500 charged against you, and you could get kicked off the ship at the next port. So that is very serious. Carnival is clearly taking this quite seriously, and this might be a controversial thing to say, but I completely support them in this endeavor. I wrote about this on the Vacation Impossible Tumblr blog recently. If you want to follow our blog, it's vacationimpossible.tumblr.com. I'm all in favor of this because there are just so many reasons. People who have allergies, such as myself, can be really negatively affected by this kind of thing. And it also damages property, and it's dangerous. So if you're smoking in your cabin, that is doing damage to the cabin. If you've ever seen, and I have seen houses that have been, occupied for 60 years with non-smokers and others with smokers, the difference, the walls, the smell, the condition, it degrades the property. So I don't think that Carnival should have to pay for these renovations that are unnecessary because people don't follow the rules. So I think having a strong enforcement side of things makes good business sense for Carnival. This applies to people who smoke on their balconies. You're never allowed to smoke on your balcony. And again, that is not only disruptive to other guests and property, it's a massive fire hazard. If an ember or something from whatever you're smoking gets somewhere, it can blow back into the ship and start a fire. It's incredibly dangerous. The most dangerous thing on a ship is a fire. So I'm really glad that they're stepping things up. They're taking it seriously. Now, there's still a question as to how they're going to be enforcing this, because if you're out on your balcony and you smell something and you don't know where it's coming from, that could be problematic and hard to track down. They do have cameras that point at the balconies from sort of the bridge crops out from the side of the ship, and they've got cameras pointed back at the ship, so they might be able to spot it. So I'm not entirely certain how they identify people. I'm curious. But if they do identify you beyond a shadow of a doubt, you could be facing a $500 fine and ejection from the ship at the very next port at your cost. You're going to have to find your own way back home. And that's sort of what happens when you don't follow the clearly explained rules, which are publicly announced during the safety briefing and all other sorts of areas. Like if you're in the comedy club, they'll tell you that you can't smoke there. And this all applies equally to vaping and all the other things, cigars, whatever. Cigars are, in fact, if anything, sometimes they're more restricted depending on the size of the ship. They might just have one cigar area where they might have 2 or 3 smoking areas, more generally. So be aware, follow the rules. If you want to smoke, there are areas, places, and times where you can do that. So just avail yourself of that. But if you think that you don't have to follow the rules, that they're stupid, or you're better than their rules, or whatever, now the consequences could be greatly escalated versus the past. So if you're going to do that, please don't. But if you do, know what the consequences of that action could be. Could ruin your entire vacation just because you weren't willing to go up a couple of decks. And you know what? I got to go up a couple of decks to get food, to get a drink, whatever. I think asking people who want to smoke to do the same kind of thing is not a huge and massive inconvenience. So I absolutely applaud Carnival for doing this. I think it's fantastic.